And now they got the chance to actually fix that issue. And of course, this takes a while until the fix is ready. And then, well, unfortunately, the service release is already out of the door, and that fix couldn't be applied just in time. What happens now is that the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th person actually experience the same issue before the new software can get out to your users. So which is in Eclipse terms, or Eclipse world, service release 2. In other words, you have 8 users, or maybe 8 million users, that actually suffer under one simple, maybe easy to fix issue. And well, this is really disappointing. So you remember the guy with the face really crying hard, and you have 8 million of those guys. Okay, so what you would like to see is an engineering process that says, okay, the first user who actually experiences that issue lets you know about it. And the maintenance team can immediately start working on this again. And maybe there are 3 more people that actually experience the same issue, but the fix is ready in time, the service released, the software gets shipped, and all the other remaining millions of users don't get that issue in their next version of Eclipse. So there are still a few people which got hit hard by that issue, right? But at the end, they feel a little bit happier than before because, well, they know it got fixed, right? And this is the way to go. Okay, so the question is now, how can we do that? How can we as application developers, no matter whether we do Eclipse plugin development or something else, fix that or help our users to become more happy, maybe even without these cluster things in there? And well, the answer to this, I guess you know it, it's the automated error reporting initiative that we founded, say, 9 months ago. And I just want to give you a brief demo how this looks like. So this is a normal Eclipse installation. And let's assume that something went wrong. So you're just hovering around or clicking on an item, and then suddenly you get something strange going on here, and hopefully you get some, it really takes a while, crazy stuff going on. Now your users start getting angry, more angry. It's not going to stop. It's making me nervous, really nervous. Try to get back to it. No. Here we go. Okay, so there is a problem. And now you see that nice tiny notification pop-up coming up saying, okay, there was something going, well, not exactly well, or something was going wrong here. And I recognized this because some plugin logged an issue in the error log. And then it asked me whether I want to enable the automated error reporting for Eclipse, yes or no. If I click on enable, I get a configuration dialog that asks me a few optional information, like whether I want to submit my name or my email address, or how I want to anonymize my error reports. So what we do here is we send everything that has eclipse.org stack trace and element names in there. But if it's a commercial plugin that starts with com something or so, we can anonymize that in case that you fear that some private data might be sent. And the same you can do with error messages that we say, we may remove every message from the exception or from the status that gets logged, just to be sure that no one is sending your password over the internet, right? Actually, does anyone think that passwords are sent or logged? No one. Okay, I will get back to that later. So now we press enable, and then we get a second pop-up saying, okay, there was an error logged here, and now I can view the details and see, okay, what actually is in that error log right now. And what you see here is basically a textual representation of what gets sent over the internet. So it is the message of the error message. It is some kind of a fingerprint. It's the stack trace. It's, and there we get to your question, the private data that's in there. So you send your email address, and there's some kind of an anonymous ID that allows us to track you to some extent and know, is it your machine causing that issue, or is it somehow special? But this is the only information that we track about our users, and everything else is purely optional. And then other information we collect is the build ID, the version of the Java runtime, so everything that you already have when you're filing your Eclipse Bugzilla account, bugs. Something on top that we do is, based on the stack trace, we guess which bundles are involved in the error message. And from there, we guess the version of the plugins which are currently available. So this is extremely important to let the committers know which version of their software is actually troubling. or causing some trouble here. And this is something that you usually don't get from your error reports when you send this or do this manually. So you know that maybe committers asking you, can you send me your Eclipse configuration? Because I want to know what kind of version might have caused this, or which other plugins are installed. So if you now click on send, well, then it actually gets sent to eclipse.org, and it's done. And then you get a notification that your error was sent, and some kind of an immediate feedback that tells you something about your error report. In this case, it says, okay, there is an error report that has been sent, we received it, but actually we don't know yet if it's a problem or not. So you will get notified later if it's really an issue or not. You can also visit your submission, and there you see an HTML representation of the data that you sent. So it's your ID, the ID of an incident, and all the other information you have seen in your report. So if you want to review that, that's the data that you actually send to eclipse.org. In case you have questions, just, shout. Any questions so far? Oh, so many. Okay, no, we have time. So let's start here.
How do you find this URL after you've closed it?
You can't yet. So this is an URL just for you. We have a Google Summer of Code project where we actually provide a view that remembers what you have sent, or the old URLs, which allows you to review that later on. So it might be available on SR1, but it's not yet there.
Is it editable if you send some private information?
No, you would have to reproduce the error again. So, which is actually not possible. So, no, it's not editable, but as you will see later, you can create bug. As soon as a committer creates a bug report out of it, you get notified by email, and then you can provide the comments.
If you don't supply the email, there's no way to get any information back.
Right?
It's not like
because you
the anonymous.
Right, because you decided not to be. You don't want to be informed about any updates there. So the email is the necessary information for us to get in touch with you. If you say, I don't want to get in touch with the committers, that's completely fine. So certainly there will be one out of a few thousands who actually leaves his email address, and then we get the necessary information that we need. But at the same time, you won't get the information when your issue is actually fixed. Okay, so the client side is rather simple, right? It's just a dialog and 2 pop-up notifications so far. And that's almost 80% of the user interface. But of course, we do a little bit more than just sending or creating pop-ups. So as you have seen, there is some kind of an immediate feedback. So the system lets you know what's the current status of the issue that you just hit. So the simplified overview of the system. So this is what you are using when programming. And when you send something, this goes to a web service that actually just collects the data and puts it in a database. And from there, committers can actually create bug reports out of it, and can fix it, can request more information, etc. And there's a continuous synchronization with the current bug state in Bugzilla. So if a committer is closing an issue as fixed, we will recognize this, and we can let the user on the other side know that something was now actually fixed. So there's this direct reporter feedback. How does it look like? You've seen the case where the issue is not yet tracked, so you get this simplified error report saying, okay, let's see if someone can make sense out of the data. We will let you know as soon as someone creates a bug out of it. But you can also, as a committer, sometimes it's not that easy based on a stack trace to reproduce your issue. So what they can do is they can just create a bug report, and as soon as they do that, we know, okay, there's a committer interested in this, and whenever you on your client side hit the same issue again, or someone else is hitting this one, you get an information saying, okay, Eclipse committers requested your assistance. And they provide you with the link to the Bugzilla issue, where you can actually go to, look at, and provide the necessary steps to reproduce this one. And this is key. So this is the most, personally, the most exciting feature set of the error reporting, that it knows what committers are actually looking at and gives you the direct feedback to go to Bugzilla and fix that thing. If you don't have a Bugzilla account, you can still submit it and can provide some say, anonymized steps to reproduce. It will be moved or merged with the same issue here. But this is really something that helps Eclipse committers a lot. Of course, you know when it's fixed. If you hit an issue that was fixed, you get the information, okay, maybe it's time for an update. As if it's closed as won't fix, well, then it wasn't that urgent, maybe, I don't know. And committers can also close an issue as being invalid. Maybe it's a log message or something that they really don't care about. Then they just close it and no one will ever see that error again. So this is the next thing that's quite interesting. Sometimes you may get worried about every error that gets logged in Eclipse might not necessarily mean it's a bug, right? So in these cases, you can just mark it as being not a bug here or in the web UI, and then all other users won't get notified about this error again. So it will simply not show any pop-ups. So won't let you know that there might be something wrong. Okay, so that's it about the notifications. Let me go a little bit deeper into the details of the system. So what is actually sent to eclipse.org? Or do we actually send all errors to eclipse.org? Of course, the answer is no. So there are many different levels of filtering involved. So the first one is something like that we call a structural filter. So what we send, for instance, if you got that error report in your Eclipse log, then we make sure that the error was actually logged by a plugin from the org Eclipse namespace, or maybe org Apache namespace, and it must actually be an error. Otherwise, we don't jump in and we don't send it to eclipse.org. If the plugin ID is something like com example, com my company, or whatever, we simply ignore it. So these kind of error messages will never show up in any Eclipse server. The second level is we check whether we have already sent that error before. So we always remember the fingerprint of the stack trace. And as soon as we get a new error, we check it against the local database. And if it was already there, then you say, OK, he has informed us, or maybe he have reviewed it, and he doesn't want to send it. We don't care, so we ignore it. So we make sure that you don't get the same pop-up over and over again with the same error message. The third level is taking another direction, not saying, OK, did I already send it? But did someone else send it before? So there's a global history that we download on startup of the system every now and then. So when we have an update on the error database. And before we create the pop-up, we check if someone else has said this is an issue or yes or no. And then you get a different pop-up here. So for instance, it says, OK, you hit a known issue. Please provide the necessary steps to reproduce. Or maybe, again, it's already fixed. And you can go for details, say maybe which version it was, et cetera, et cetera. Questions for this topic? Last row, yeah. Yeah.
So, is it possible to provide also the frequency of the error? Yes. Do you know how many persons raised this error?
I'm pretty sure I know how many people hit that issue on the server side. I can't tell you how many people actually didn't send the error report based on this filtering here.
Yeah, sure. You can know how
So that global history is a little bit special because there we can really control what kind of errors we want to ignore. So what we do is when a certain kind of issue was reported by 50 users, then we say, OK, we got already 50 error reports. If a committer didn't take any action so far, he certainly will never do so. So we put this into the ignore bin, and we won't bother any other user about this issue again until a committer creates a bug report and starts working on it. Yes?
Yeah, so we have our own recipe, and we wouldn't necessarily want every bug, perhaps, to report it.
I'm sorry, can you close the door, please?
I mean, we wouldn't necessarily want every bug caused by our stuff, extra stuff, to be reported by Eclipse, even if it contains Eclipse code. So could you filter that out, or maybe redirect something to your own?
You can redirect it, yes. So the client code is completely open source. You get it from eclipse.org. You can redirect the URLs where the data is sent to. You can customize it in many ways. To be honest, there needs to be a little bit tweaking to make it work in all cases for your company in-house thing, but it's potentially possible. And it will be in a month or two. Yeah?
Is there a way where you hit another issue to tell that your issue is not the same one because you know you have something particular in your context, but the issue looks the same, but it's not exactly the same one?
Yeah, somewhere in there. OK, so I will just continue.
Just one question.
Yeah.
Is it possible to share personal filter between different instances of Eclipse? I'm working with two Eclipse.
Right. So the personal filter is based on your workspace. So when you have 10 workspaces, then you might get the same error 10 times again. So we are currently discussing whether we want to have this in your user home directory so that you have it in 10 workspaces. And so you just report it once no matter how many Eclipse installations you have. But right now it's workspace based. And this one, the global one, well, it's global, right? So, okay, so let's go a little bit further. Reviewing, right? So here's the reviewing dialog again. And so to answer your question, let's go back one slide. You can skip similar errors and you can mark them as not being a bug. So this is a pointer for us as the committer to when we review your error report and someone actually provides us the information that this is really not a bug, I shouldn't care about it, or maybe something else, then you can give us that kind of feedback. So the automated error reporter will consider this in their next version of the remote database and will put that error to the ignore list, for instance. Of course, if you get bored about having this pop-up coming up over and over again, you can just say, okay, I want to remember the decision to send it permanently, or maybe until next restart, or until 24 hours. So if you're doing a demo, you would say, okay, until restart, for instance. So it can send everything, but at the same time, you can also disable it at any time. So if you don't want to send error reports, simply do it there, or go to the preference page and say, okay, I don't want to send any data anymore, which would be a pity, but you could do so. Okay, the server side. So that's it for the client side. So it might be interesting to see how we do that on the server side. And basically, there are 3 core concepts. So this is the web page, so it's rather simple. And there are 3 concepts I would like you to take away from that talk. So first of all, there's something that we call incidents, which is a problem on your client side. But on the server side, it's an incident that we have to investigate. And there are many different ones. So they might look similar, orange, more blue, or something in between. And what we have to do now is we have to group them into real problems. So what we do is we compare the similarity of these issues, look at which projects are involved in the stack trace, etc. And then we create these problem descriptions, which we then, in the next step, assign to projects. A project might be something like eGit, code recommenders, the platform, JDT, or whatever. So, and here's all the heavy lifting going on with the duplicate detection that we need to, well, we have, I think, 210,000 error reports right now. And we have around about 8,000 problems. So we group them quite aggressively to get it down to a manageable number so that projects can actually review them. But in total, we have 45,000 different stack traces. So you see, it's a rather complex thing, and there's a lot of work in this area going on. Okay, so then there is the official committer front end. And this is what I want to show you in action. This is a problems view here. So that's the main interface. Let's hope the internet is still working. Right, it is. So this is the live system here, deveclipse.org. And this shows which errors occurred just in the last few seconds. And this is the entry point for your investigation. So you see which projects are involved, JST, WST, Azaleo platform, or whatever. And you get the top level name of the exception that was logged and the location where. And we can go just in here. You see how many people were actually reporting this one. So 9 people here, 163 people there. So you get really a feeling how urgent the issue is and how many users actually experienced this issue. So if you go in here, we get to the details view. Maybe there are watchers that left their email address, so we can contact them at any time if we want. So we do actually ask them for steps to reproduce. But you see 46 compared to 163, so not that many or not all people actually leave their email address, which is completely fine. And then you get, well, just to make sure that you get that, so this is basically the same data that you actually sent, so there's nothing hidden in here. So that's the view that we have as Eclipse committer. So this is not public available to anyone outside of eclipse.org, just committers. So this might be interesting for you just to recognize. So every committer has access to that data because they need to know what's going wrong, and they have to start the conversation with their own project or with related projects to get that issue fixed. Is anyone concerned about letting committers know what's going wrong? I hope so. Okay, So then there's this kind of a quick actions bar, which actually allows you to create a bug report out of it just in one click. So you say, if you investigate that stack trace and the error message, and you say, okay, this is a bug report, it's worth a bug report. As a committer, you can quickly go there and say, okay, let's create it. And you get that pop-up, which actually predefines the Bugzilla component that it guesses from the project configurations. And you get the information that you send here. And this is now completely copied to Bugzilla. And at the end, there's this nice tiny checkbox here, which lets you know that your bug that you have just created or are about to create, that will produce an email and let everyone know, okay, there's someone taking care of this issue. And it actually happens that you get quite a few people after that email that jump to the bug report and just put themselves on the CC list and help discussing how to fix that issue. Okay, so this all would take place when I push OK. So I just have to check the time. So I have a few statistics prepared, so I will hurry up a little bit here. Something else important to know, there are project alerts. So far you have seen how to do it manually, but it doesn't work out well if you get thousands of reports and you have always to look it up manually in your web UI if there's anything new. So you get weekly digest emails or maybe daily digest emails that inform you as a committer that something's going wrong. Right now we have 80 projects involved that subscribe to error reports, either in person or project dev mailing list. So they are reviewing the incoming errors on a at least weekly basis. If you like, you can also directly start creating bug reports automatically from an error report. So you can define thresholds like the minimum number of reporters needs to be 100 or so, and then it automatically creates a bug for this. Just to get to the next level and really forcing users to, or committers to review at least your items. So this is an example of the daily weekly email. You get links, you can click there, you see if it's already tracked in Bugzilla, how many reporters have reported that issue. So these easy to use statistics to know how urgent or is there really a need to start working on an issue. Okay, so let me go to some fun facts. Or any questions for the server so far? Yes?
How is the equality of two issues computed? Like when you say two users reported the same error, what does it mean? Is it equality in terms of stack trace? Or so, for example, it might be useful for committers to know this just to be sure that it's actually the same issue. So
right.
How is the equality, basically, that's the question. So what's the equals of the...
Right, well, when is an error report equal to another one?
Yes.
And actually there are 10 different heuristics that we apply because there's no one rule to match them all.
Okay.
So it really depends on several factors like which projects are involved, what's the dependency between the projects. Is it a null pointer exception? Then it's rather easy to know. So then you apply a different heuristic. Mm-hmm. So it really depends on the kind of error.
Okay, so it's not just plain stack trace.
No.
Okay.
So the since you have SWT in Linux, on Mac, on Windows, and you have a lot of frames coming from SWT in an error report, then you would actually never fit merge 2 with a different platform in there. So there's a lot of things you have to do in the back. But explaining all of them will certainly take another 60 minutes or so.
All right.
Any other questions for the server side yet? If not, you can get back to that later. I want to show a few statistics, but before I do so, I want to make clear that you should not draw any preliminary conclusion out of that data, what you see here, because it's really just one part of the picture. And if you're not sure, you should really ask your personal statistician, the guy with the math knowledge next to you, and make sure that you really don't draw any preliminary conclusions, please. Because the project that actually agreed to share their data in that report here, they're doing fine, really fine. So whatever you see there, don't complain that they have a bad code, okay? So that's important for me to make sure that you get that. Otherwise, you know. A question for you. What do you guess? How many milestone testers do we have? So there are around about 450 committers or 400 committers and a few contributors. There are 1,200 committers in total. What's your estimate how many people are actually downloading Milestones and testing it? 100. Less than committers working on the release train. Okay, that's funny. Okay, I don't know how to handle that. Okay, what I can tell, I don't know how many testers there are, but I can tell you how many people reported issue with the system so far last week, until last week. And we had around about 7,000 error reporters. So 7,000 people reporting issues to Eclipse.org projects, which is, I think, a quite nice number. What's going on here? Okay, Keynote. Actually, as you see, there's also some kind of error reporting in Keynote involved. And for whatever reason, it's crashing at really not that cool locations. Okay, let me see. It shouldn't be too much of a problem, hopefully. Okay, so then next slide. Milestone adoption. It might be interesting to know when your users start using your milestones, right? So we initially used that tool for Luna, so we put it on the code recommenders milestone side. So it was not available for every EPP project at that time. And we got around about 150 users at most for the service releases. So just users that were using our milestones. And then 9 months ago, we said, okay, we want to put that into Mars. And we did that for Mars M1. And there we actually got, well, not that many users, right? So this is 10. So, okay, there's potential, I say. Since Mars M2, we got integrated into the modeling package, which we're doing a quite well job on fixing issues and then reviewing and providing really great feedback to us. And there we got a little bit more users. Milestone 3, we got even more users. So there we were in the committer package. Milestone 4 was, wow, exciting. And you see, really, there are phases where we, M2 is phasing out, and then we get users for M4. So that you see that they are rather quickly updating to the latest milestone. So at that time, we had around about 220 users at most reporting errors in a single week. So just a sliding window thing, at most 220 users. With M5, we integrated this into all EPP packages, and we suddenly came up to 1,000 users reporting issues per week, which is gives you the first heartbeats that your system is actually able to manage that. To some extent, that's surprising. M6 wasn't that attractive anymore, so we made some changes in the UI, which might explain that drop. But then we had M7, not that many new users reporting issues. RC1, okay, that was a surprise, having less than on the milestones before. RC2 and RC3, and you see the number is climbing. So what you take away is your users are actually testing your system when it's too late. So in RC3, you can't fix anything anymore, right? So that's all done. But anyways, they start testing it, and they're filing reports, and they hope for SR1. Good luck. If you put this all together, then this is how it looks like. And you see some characteristics like Christmas. There's really... But yeah, okay. And the release candidates, actually, there are quite a few users. But you also see that some users still are on the milestone builds, maybe even until today, I don't know. Anyways, so the next question is, how hard do your users suffer? And this was really interesting for me to figure out. So there are, how many errors is a user reporting? And there's a small group of users that have just almost no issues, right? So 3,000 of these 7,000 users have reported 1 to 2 issues. They must feel happy. I hope so. There are a number of users which are not that happy, but still kind of happy. They have 50, they reported up to 50 error reports, which is the majority with 3,600 testers. And then, well, there are people reporting up to 300 reports. And this is getting troubling, in my opinion. And then there is a group of, I'd say, power users, or whatever name you have for these guys, which suffer very, very hard. To make this a little bit different, or different viewpoint on this. Right, so this is an individual user, and this is how many times they reported something. and the color is, the blue ones are normal issues. I will explain what that means later. And the red ones, third-party issues. So we still get some errors where third-party plugins are involved. And others are UI freezes. And you see, that's what I found quite interesting. Some people just have problems with third-party libraries. Others have so many UI freezes that they just have a full-time freezing UI, it looks like. So it's really, people are experiencing quite different issues. And that's me, somewhere in there. So I'm not the most active error reporter, I have to admit. So there are people that are suffering much harder than I do. So what kind of errors are sent? So most of them are normal errors, and I will show you what that means in a second. Then there are a couple of stack overflows, but not that many, and out-of-memory errors, which are really not that many. So I was quite happy to see that. And we have got 9% of UI freezes, which is troubling, but we worked on this one. Question to you. What are the most popular exceptions? What do you think? Null pointer exceptions. Next guess?
Does core exception count as covering everything else? Core exception?
That's something else.
Cast exception.
Class cast exceptions. Okay. Let's see how good your guesses are. So actually, the null pointer exception is with 25% of all logged errors. Wow, guys. I mean, what should I say? Null pointer exceptions. What I found quite interesting is no class definition found errors are with 12% in the milestones an exciting high number. This is really annoying. So this means that you have some kind of OSGI wiring issues in there. And to some extent, this also contributes to the class cast exceptions here. I will, just to make sure, so code recommenders, so we can blame ourselves. So we also got a few null pointer exceptions in here, but there are other projects which have less errors somewhere there. So just a few tips, because this is the right place. If you haven't used the null analysis of the JDT, this is the right moment to activate it, right? It is rather slow right now, so it learned a lot. So it can warn you about null pointers, potential null pointers. You have these null annotations you could use, so you should really start using this one. So just dive into the preferences. There's a lot of things you can configure in there. So just remember JDT, null pointer analysis. There's a lot of things in it. You really should consider using optional. If you're on Java 8, use Java util optional. If you're on any other version of JDT of the Java runtime, I would recommend to use Google Commons for this. So there's really no reason ever to return null anymore. And when you see 25% of all errors are null pointer exceptions, it can't be more impressive than this, right? Yeah. Class not found definitions, linkage errors, class cast exceptions, they all mean that you don't maintain your metadata in OSGI properly. You should use uses directives, you should use version constraints, you should use all these things. And having the numbers in the back of your head of 12% of all errors are caused by this, maybe you can reconsider the way how you maintain your manifest MF files. Next one are index out of bounds exceptions. No matter how often you try, -1 will never be a valid index. You should try testing, really make sure it's really, well. Some projects complain that the error messages are not that helpful at all. So when we just take what the committers put into the error message, so this is especially a pro tip, number one, start logging the error itself, so the exception. That would really be helpful. So 21% of all errors don't have any stack trace in there. So the reason why something failed is actually not logged. So something else you could do, and that's what we do heavily in code recommenders, we provide a lot of additional information that helps us to track down the issue. If some parsing failed, we put the string in there. If something unexpected happens, we put everything that we consider important to debugging and fixing it into the error message. 6 weeks later, or a few days later, you get the next milestone out. You get the first users, and I can promise, 2 days later you got an error report with new details in it, and then you can fix it. So if you use some automated error reporting constantly during your development, this can help you to fix issues a lot. Just with a few days delta, but it will help you. So maybe you have 6 weeks doing a milestone where users suffer, but this will be gone in the next milestone release. It might be interesting. So far, we have 64% of all users using Java 8 already, and just 33% using Java 7, and 0.3% already using the early access of Java 1.9. Okay, so this is going to change. I have to hurry up, so there's not that much time anymore. What I found quite interesting, how many people are concerned that some passwords get sent. 81% are not that concerned, so like everyone here in the room. But 16% of the users are concerned, so they have enabled anonymization by default. And a few users are undecided, so they do so it's changing. But in general, the conclusion to take away, many people trust that Eclipse will use that data in a meaningful way, and I think they are completely right. So we have all the security things going on in the back, and we are quite confident there's really no private data in there, as far as I can say. So you don't have to be concerned. So that's the final one. I think that's the most important thing, right? So does it actually work? And well, this is a question to the audience, because when I assembled the numbers, I wasn't sure what is a great number. So you have seen we started it in M5, and it's a long way to get the projects to actually use these kind of tools. So what do you think is a great number of fixed bugs? 10,000 for sure is. Would anyone be happy with 10? No. Okay. 50? 100? 200? 1,000? Okay, you're just happy if every error is gone, I see. So what happens is we have round about, I'm really hurry up, we have round about 1,170 bugs reported, out of which 200 and in the meanwhile 77 have been fixed. So a bug fixing rate of 24%. This is in total round about 10% of all issues that have been reported. So 10% fixing rate according to all different problems and errors that we have seen, which is not that bad given that we just started with that kind of tool. Of course, there are some duplicates, so bug reports that have been reported before by others, but there are a lot of things going on. There are a few projects performing very well. Oomph is an exciting project that really embraced the way how error reporting works. Xtext as well, so they're doing a really great job. Recommenders itself was performing well. Papyrus, eGit, and a lot of other projects actually using it. And so this is something, that's the reason why I ask you not to draw any wrong conclusions out of it. So they are really working and fixing things, and I'm extremely proud of those projects using that, and in a way that they fix these issues before they actually appear in the mass final release. So if you see people like Ed Merckx, you should shake his hands and say, this is really great, because he was doing a really great job, Xtext as well, and all the others, so really great. So I have to hurry up. If you need to know more, or want to know more, the slides will be published. There are a lot of things you can get in touch with us. I will be happy to hear from you. If you have any feature requests, just let me know. And credits to a few people who worked on it, especially committers. And please, at the end, leave your feedback for the talk and tell me what's wrong, or good, or bad. And with that, I'm happy to have your time. See you later.